Hi, this is Danny from Coffee, Tea, and PvP. Today I want to talk to you about 10 things you need to know as an endgame PvP player in Wildstar. Let's start with gear and PvP stats. When you're looking at gearing up your character in Wildstar, there's a couple issues with the PvP gear at the moment, which are that their main stat for PvP, the PvP offense and PvP defense, are designed in a system that they sort of cancel each other out. Add to that there's a very low cap ceiling to this gear, and a lot of this stat being spent on the actual PvP gear that you get from the vendors as PvP rewards causes a problem where PvE gear becomes almost necessary to be competitive in endgame PvP in this game. Now, the devs are working on fixing this, but we'll have to see what comes out on the June 30th patch. In the meantime, this information is relevant. So what you need to know is that around 3 or 4 pieces, your PvE gear is going to start to cap out. So anything in excessive of that, when we're looking at 39, 40%, you're going to be wasting those stats. As a healer, you can even choose to ignore this stat altogether, since you're not actually trying to do damage. Now let me explain really quickly how the stat works. You have a PvP defensive stat, which reduces the amount of damage that you take from other players. This is very useful. And you have a PvP offensive stat, which you would think would increase the damage you do to other players, but really all it does is cancel out the defensive stat. So as someone who's attacking other players, you only need enough offensive stat to counteract their defense. And if you're playing a healer, you can choose to use PvE gear to just out heal the damage that players who are almost forced to use this offensive stat gear are just going to be wasting. So see some healers who don't even run PvP gear, they just run PvE. The devs are working on fixing this. We'll have to see. Next, let's talk about the gear reward system itself. With the gear reward system, there are 3 basic tiers. You got your 1500, your 1800, and 1900. You can get that either from Battlegrounds, from Arena, or War Plots. Now the gear itself is relatively the same between each of these types of PvP, just different colors. But the tiers do make a difference. You're still going to be running into the same issues where after 3 or 4 pieces, you're going to want to be mixing in PvE gear with your PvP gear. But there is a significant bonus, and the stats overall are much higher than the blue gear you're going to be finding in regular PvE, even with just these Battleground rewards. So hitting these markers is really important. The other thing is that once you hit these markers, you can buy the entire set of gear for that tier as soon as you hit that rating. You don't have to wait like other games to get 1 piece over a week. On one side, this is great because it lets people catch up quickly. On the other side, it's really bad because it creates sort of a wall for each tier bracket as you're going up, where people who have hit 1500 or 1800 are going to have a significant advantage over the people who are just struggling to get there. So here we are, second week of launch. You have people who already are fully geared out in 1800 gear with a 1900 weapon. Again, we'll see how the devs change this in the future. For the moment, it's something to take into consideration that as soon as you hit your first tier, that next tier in any of those arenas, battlegrounds, or war plots, you need to run to the merchant and buy that gear. If you don't have the prestige to buy it at the time, then you need to just farm up some practice battleground prestige, buy the gear, and then continue on with your PvP as soon as possible. Okay, so third I want to talk about Eldan Points, or EP. Eldan Points are something you get through EXP, Battlegrounds. It's something you get as a weekly reward that you're going to be gaining once you hit level 50. Now, these EP are very important because what you can do with them is you can go to the Eldan Points vendor and buy not only your endgame raid access, but more importantly, you can unlock ability points, which can expand your ability loadout. Now, these are pretty easy to get as a PvP player because you get them doing what you love. It's just EXP. If you do a few Battlegrounds every day, you'll easily hit the weekly cap on that. These points cap out at 140 a week. But to give you an idea, to get 1 ability point, you need 400 Eldan Points. As you can see, there is a weekly maximum of what you can get. Now, even these ability points do cap out at only 7 that you can get. I want to point out there's also a very, very rare drop that you can get from a PvP reward bag that'll actually give you an ability point. Just like that. Clicky. So, you know, good luck with that. Very, very, very rare, but it does exist. For the rest of us, we're going to be farming these points weekly. The longer we play, the stronger our characters are going to get, because we're going to be able to unlock tiers, which means that in the end, with 7 ability points, you're going to be able to have extra tier 4 abilities that other players who don't have that time invested are going to be able to get. There's other things you can buy with Eldan Points, but you're going to find it really tough to find something more valuable than an ability point. Next, let's talk about consumables. Consumables are the major ones you want to worry about are food, flasks, and potions. Now, you can use these in both arenas and battlegrounds, rated battlegrounds. So it's important that you're taking these food buffs and these potions and you're using them to give yourself a little bit of an advantage. The stat bonuses are not gigantic, but they are significant. And particularly with potions, you can give yourself a huge heal when you most need it, or you can give yourself a really rapid speed boost to get to that point more quickly and cap it first, or knock off the people who are trying to cap that point before you get there. Same with masks. So it's important that you either make friends with someone who can do the cooking trade skill or learn it yourself, and the same thing goes for someone who's a technologist. Those are the people who make the potions and who make a lot of these clickies. Fifth, I would like to speak to you about gadgets. You need to know what type of gadgets you can get in this game, and you need to use them. Now, most people use gadgets just from the PvP vendor. These gadgets don't usually have any PvP stats on them, so they're really easy to change out, even if you're just trying to figure out where to put in your few pieces. Now, gadgets, by default, most people have one that either heals or increases their assault power to make them do a spike amount of damage, or maybe their critical chance, or maybe the damage they do when they critical. But there's also gadgets that let you do all kinds of other things. There's gadgets that let you take away interrupt armor or make you move even faster. I mean, you stack gadgets with potions and class abilities, you're flying, man. So you can use gadgets to knock people off of things. There's a lot of great things you can do with gadgets. There's a variety of them. Check them out. Next thing I want to talk to you about, sixth, is weapon attachments. Weapon attachments are something that is a gear slot. You want to take a look at what's available at level 50 on the vendors. They are made by weaponsmiths. Weapon attachments right now are in some ways incredibly overpowered. There's some that do a stacking snare on hit. There are some that have knockback. There are some that increase your damage. There are some that increase that cause like a damage over time dot, which can interrupt people from even capping a point or picking up a mask. There's a lot of great abilities that you're getting right now if you get a weapon attachment with an added ability. So it's definitely worth taking a little bit of money and investing in a really good weapon attachment with good stats once you hit level 50 and a really good proc ability. Seventh, I want to talk about ruining your gear. Not ruining, but ruining it. You need to put runes on your gear, all right? There's a little quest in the city that teaches you how to do it. Basically, this is like enchanting your gear in another game. But you're missing out if you don't put these runes on. Now, there's different levels of runes. The most simple runes just put raw stats on your gear. For most parts of PvP, that's good enough. But when you start getting really nice gear, you're going to want to start looking at the class abilities, which also give you procs on your gear, like when you get hit or when you hit somebody else. Healing procs, all kinds, defensive procs, of course. You know, I didn't mention it earlier, but there's also defensive gadgets. You'll see stalkers use them pretty often when they're snatching flags, just to make their deflect go crazy. The counter of that, of course, is a strike through gadget, but you get those also from runes on your gear. You can boost the stat just through that. So the class runes are different from the other ones. The system's a little confusing at first. There's plenty of videos out there that'll explain to you how to rune your gear, where to get it. You want to save up a little bit of money, because this is where you're going to probably be spending a lot of your money at level 50 is in increasing, buying these nice runes for your gear and tweaking them out the way you want them. You can change out the runes on your gear, but it gets expensive really quickly. Eighth, I want to talk about add-ons. Add-ons in this game are like some games like WoW, you know, they can give you a pretty big advantage. Add-ons, you know, the most talked about one is the Zone. Recently they pulled it from Curse, but it's still out there. The Zone is a pretty awesome add-on. It lets you see the other team right when you're zoning in, what class they're in, what guild they're in. It just shows you all that stats. You You know, you get a little picture of them so you can see what kind of gear they're wearing. You know, once you know what kind of gear people are wearing, what it looks like, you can start to ID people like, oh, that's a healer and they're in great gear, or no, they're not, just by looking at their icon, because you can't hide your gear in in the PvP. You know, the costumes don't work; they're disabled. So there's a few other add-ons that are really nice. Some people like BG plates. I recommended it in another video. Lately, I'm not that enamored with it. Enamored, but the add-ons I really do like are, for example, like Walatiki Timer and Aura Mastery. I really love Aura Mastery. It's great. You can set it up so that it makes a sound when your moves go on cooldown or when they proc, or you know, there's a lot you can do with Aura Mastery. It's a complicated add-on, but it's really great to get to know. One other thing, if you're doing PvP and it drives you crazy, if for some reason you get a random disconnect, like you just drop and it seems like your add-ons are reset it, the way right now until they fix something, maybe the devs will fix this in the future, to fix that is to just Alt F4, close out your client, just close it right out and come right back in, and you'll be able to get all your add-ons back without them resaving and having to retweak everything the way it was before. So just close out your client, log back in, your add-ons will be back the way they were before the disconnect. Hopefully, this is a bug they'll fix soon. Ninth, I want to talk to you about making money, because you are going to need a little bit of money. I told you you're going to probably want to buy some runes. You might want to buy some weapon attachments. Hopefully for PvP, you know, you're going to get a lot of gear, but the truth is, if you hate PvE, you might have to buy some purple gear as well. So that gets expensive fast. Now, obviously you can buy cred, but you know, buying cred, right? So something you should just do as you're leveling up in PvP, you're getting all this great stuff from these bags. In general, you want to salvage the blues or sell them on the auction house, and then just vendor the green stuff that you're getting. So you get some cash, and then from vendoring the greens, and then you can also market some of these blue items that you're getting on the auction house, and you can salvage them for pieces, because oftentimes the rune pieces that you get from those salvage pieces of gear is going to be more valuable than what you would get for just selling the actual piece of gear. Not always. So check prices on the gear that you drop, because sometimes if the stats are good and it's a great piece of gear, you can sell it for a good amount of money. Also, once you've capped out your Elder Points for the week, you get a cash bonus for all that EXP that would have been Elder Points EXP. So keep up your PvP buff, you know, your benefit buff, because it's going to pay you. It's going to get you more cash, and that's going to let you, you know, get those runes you need and get those pieces of gear you want. 10th and last, what I want to talk about really quickly is what kind of group you should run and how the ELO system does that. The ELO system tries to match full groups against full groups, and it gives them priority over a full group and a pug. Now, it doesn't mean that if you're pugging, you're not going to end up against a full group. It's going to happen pretty often. Pugging in solo is a really mixed bag, and in the end, it's a losing gamble, because you're going to end up getting bots, bad players, and just, you know, getting matched against teams that are just way better than you. Plus, there's the added suck, I should say, of sometimes getting thrown into a Battleground queue with a team that's already losing because somebody left and they brought you in. So in general, you want to always try to group up, go in as a team, something that works. In general, if you have the ability and you have the friends and the gear, go ahead and go in with a well-geared team. Full team is always better, and I shouldn't say always, but a full team of people who know what they're doing with decent gear is going to be the best bet for upping your ranking in the Battlegrounds. In arenas, you know, a lot of people think arena is a little bit easier for leveling up and getting the rating. So, you know, you can get it in twos. Just get yourself a good combo. I'm not going to make the mistake of saying which class combos are perfect, because they're very fluid and they're changing classes daily. It seems like definitely weekly. Classes get nerfed, classes get buffed. I know Warriors going to take a hit on the 30th. Right now they are the Uber class, but we'll see. Well, that's it for my video today. I hope you enjoyed it and found it useful. If you have any questions, put them in the comments. I'll try to keep it updated below. Sorry it took me so long to update my video. Like many of you, I've been grinding away at the game for the first couple weeks of launch. So exciting, so much fun. Thank you very much, and this is Danny from Coffee, Tea, and PvP. Take care.
My wares are the best, I promise.